Hey everyone, welcome to Steven Universe, the show where we talk about the universe of Steven Universe. I'm your host, Victor Frost, and it is day 4 of Steven Bomb Week, which means it's time for us to look at what we learned at the latest episode. If you haven't yet seen the episodes The Return and Jailbreak, you should take this time to pause this video, go watch that one, then come on back. Don't worry, we'll wait. This is your spoiler alert. So many feels, so many different kinds of feels. New episode, new lore. Let's see what we learned. Okay, so from here on out, just so I won't keep tripping over words and having to retake segments over and over again, how about we just agree to treat The Return and Jailbreak as one episode? Because that's how they are narrative-wise anyways. Okay? Okay. Wow, this episode was just a roller coaster of feels. I mean, we had happy moments, sad moments, moments of fear and anticipation, just what a ride. Now, a lot of characters had development, but for the sake of time, I'm just gonna stick with the main cast. Sorry, Petey. But before we do that, just a quick thing. Sadie's mom! Finally! So let's just tackle the elephant in the room first. Now, I was never able to really discuss this before, even before I started doing this show, because, well, frankly, I don't like speculating about this sort of thing unless it's heavily supported by the text or, not too big a leap in logic. There is a fine line between interpreting and analyzing a work and inserting your own biases into it, and I prefer to stay on the objective side. But that's no longer an issue, now is it? Congratulations, you brilliant lunatics! For 6 months, you guys had Garnet pegged as a fusion, and finally, you have been vindicated in the show. And wow, was it great! Man! Although, I don't think I'll ever be able to really get used to Garnet being so emotive. I mean, I hope she is, and she continues to be emotive like that, but I don't think it's like watching Batman laugh. The best part of it is that we got to see Ruby and Sapphire, if briefly, react to things individually, which means we got a bit of a look into their personalities. Now, there are 2 tropes that Ruby and Sapphire fall into pretty nicely. The first one is red Oni, blue Oni, which is color-coded for your convenience. Now, I wish I could really get into this trope because it's one of my favorites, but it's like 12:30 at night. I still need to edit this thing. We have a lot of material left to cover, and frankly, sleep would be nice. This week has done a number on me. So, to sum it up, red Oni is the loud bruiser type, blue Oni is the calm thinker type. The second is that of the Taoist philosophy of yin and yang. Ruby and Sapphire, from our limited experience, have opposing styles of action. Ruby was all but bouncing off the cell walls to try to get out and get to Sapphire, even running at full tilt when she didn't even know where Sapphire was. In contrast, Sapphire was perfectly content in staying in her cell, just singing, letting anyone who was looking for her know where she was, and hoping that the result was favorable to her. Sapphire is the yin to Ruby's yang. Like yin and yang and the red and blue Onis, together Ruby and Sapphire form a gestalt, a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. Together, their differences complement each other and harmonize. That's why Garnet is such a stable fusion. And just to touch on something small here, but did you notice that Sapphire's song is the same as the melody in Garnet's Smack Talk song? Have a listen. Speaking of fusions, Jasper seems to have one hell of a problem with them. I know this is taking a little bit of an interpretive license, but this seems to be the case of sour grapes, or being bitter towards something you can't have because you can't have it. Jasper, sticking with the yin and yang analogy, is definitely a very strong yang. Like, super aggressive. That being the case, it might be hard for her to find someone who can balance her out enough to form a stable fusion. Of course, she found one in Lapis Lazuli, and you could not find a bigger yin. Lapis was so passive, so fitting of her water element, that she would basically go with the flow for anything, even in situations that obviously did not benefit her. Of course, Lapis turned this around on Jasper and used their newfound stability to imprison her, well, them, in the ocean. So, there's that, I guess. We also find out that Jasper was there 6,000 years ago at the original conflict, and that she is confused as hell about Steven. Not knowing that human gem hybrids are a thing that can happen, she seems to think that Rose has taken the form of a child for tactical reasons, and if she was right, she would be completely justified in calling it sick. In most laws of war, formal or not, children are defined as non-combatants, and using child soldiers is a war crime. For shapeshifters in combat, taking the form of a kid would be a definitively disgusting and deceptive tactic. So, what about Steven? Well, he had development too, but not too much. This episode was more focused on the expansion of his abilities rather than his development as a character. I mean, if you wanted to focus on his development as a character, much like his role in Code Steven and at the end of Political Power, he was called upon to be a rallying force, and he did a great job of it. In this case, it was to rally the townsfolk to, get them organized and get out of Dodge. Unfortunately, it was all done off camera, so a bit of a pity there. We did get some expansion on his abilities though. For one, he generated the biggest rose shield we've seen to date, and he showed that it can take a direct hit from modern gem cannons, which says a lot. In addition, he's shown that he's immune to some of the gem prison technology. For example, he was able to walk right through those force shields to little ill effect. As a comparison, gems, when they touch it, to borrow a term from Tron, their forms de-resed. I was a little surprised though that Steven, up until now, hadn't put together that the gems initially invaded the Earth. I mean, we didn't really get all that much more information than he did. Maybe a little, snippet of a conversation between the crystal gems when they thought he wasn't around or something, or from a different camera perspective, but even with the information that he just had, he should have been able to put that together. Pearl and Amethyst played relatively minor roles in this episode, but it was cool to see Pearl interact with the modern gem technology. Hopefully she'll be able to reverse engineer some of it from the wreckage. And then there's Peridot. Now we did see her escape and she did shoot down to Earth, so we're going to be seeing her again. Probably with an army of, Earth-generated gems like Amethyst. And actually, I'd be pretty cool with seeing Jasper escape too. She's got this really cool Tengen Toppan Gurren Lagann kind of look, and honestly, I'd hate to see Lapis Lazuli stuck with her forever. And that's what we learned this week on Steven Universe. Join us tomorrow when we talk about Full Disclosure. I'm Victor Frost, and I'll see you tomorrow.